here are the dimensions and the panels that make up my vocal booth. The floor, the sub bass, the floor, and the walls are all the same 3/4 inch wafer board that I used for the entire structure, whether that be everything I just mentioned or the 2 ventilation boxes. I bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 5 sheets of 3/4 inch. No, it was 6 sheets. 6 sheets of 3/4 inch wafer board, and use them to build everything. Now the sub bass here, I have it resting on top of I'm using a tape measure for a pointer because I worked construction. This the sub bass rests on top of this 1/2 inch. It's basically just like heavy duty workout mat, the interlocking ones that look like puzzle pieces. So I put that on the sub bass to protect the floor, as well as to add an additional layer of sound insulation between the sub bass and the floor itself. Underneath the sub bass, attached to the floor itself, are these. So these, you can find them in in Home Depot, Lowe's, just like everything else that I'll mention here. These are rubber isolation mats. They're used in air conditioning. That's my background. I've been a air conditioning technician for 7 years before I got into, well, I did that along with doing everything else. And so I have 2 in each corner, and then 1 on each side, and 2 in the center to support the weight of the entire structure. Obviously, because this sub bass handles the weight of everything, me and the 4 walls and the ceiling. A little bit better of an outline here. There is the base so you can see it. Now, you're probably wondering what these are. These corner pieces are, I was looking for something specific that I could slide in the corner and it would hold everything together. And I found these because at the time that I built this booth, I didn't have a welding shop. Now I do, so I might redo it. But anyway, this is just a corner plate that actually holds wood together on the sides and on the bottom. I just mounted it to the bottom with 2 screws and screws on the side. And then the aluminum piece that I'll show you here in a little bit slides into this corner and holds the walls centered. Then on the end here is just another construction carpenter plate that holds boards on the outside, but I'm using it on the inside, obviously. It's just 3 holes on top and 3 holes on bottom, little L bracket. And there is 1 of those on each of the sides. And that's what creates the anchors for the wall to slide down into. Now, on top of the sub bass, you'll see these metal flanges. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. These metal flanges and these metal flanges are a death trap waiting to happen. Yes, they are very sharp and they suck to get cut on. Well, they are going to be covered by the walls and the actual floor, not the sub bass here. This is just another carpenter wood securing bracket that has 4 little holes on the sides and 4 on the bottom here that I use to, again, guide the walls into place. I'll show you how that's done when we get there. I only bought 6. You could buy 8 and make it a little bit easier to set the walls every time, but I just have 1 there, 1 there, 2 on each of these sides, 1 on each of these sides, and then 2 on the other side. And that works well enough to hold everything in place. All they are is guides. They're not handling any weight, so you don't need more than that. But it would help to guide the corners better to have 2 over here and 2 over here like I have on these corners over there. So as I said, those on the edges are just guides. They're not just the guides for the walls to slide into place, they're also guides for the actual floor to rest on itself. So here's the floor. The floor sits inside just enough space to allow the base of the walls, you can see the bare wood there, to slide in between the floor with the guides on the outside, on the inside, and the outside guides on the outside of the wall themselves. And so the wall slides right into place right there. on all four sides, obviously. This is not secured in any way. It's just held down by gravity. The 3/4 inch plywood is obviously in the middle. And then I have I have it carpeted with 1 inch foam on the base. I did the floor and the ceiling with 1 inch foam to try and add some more insulation qualities. The floor piece is the exact same size as the ceiling piece. And the ceiling piece, same thing, has the 1 inch foam that's glued to the wood with the carpet on the outside. And then here it's just, you can just see it's just, I am not associated with Lowe's, even though I got a lot of the stuff with there. They're a great store. I'm not advertising. So yeah, just regular outside stucco styrofoam that I used for the sound isolation properties. Now, as for measurements, this is what you'll want your pen and paper ready. The floor and the ceiling, like I said, are the same sizes. So the floor is 46, let me see here, 46 and 3/8. Looks like the measurement that I have here. Let's check this way. Come out to the edge, make sure that we're square. 46 1/4. I was off on this one. Yeah, 46 1/4. I was at an angle on the other one, so that's why I couldn't see it. So the floor and the ceiling are both 46 1/4 inches long, and that's what fits inside the walls themselves. You can see here, same thing, 46 1/4 for the ceiling. The base itself, because I wanted as much space as possible, I didn't cut anything off of the base. I used the full 4 foot by 4 foot region that I cut in half from one of the 8 foot by 4 foot 3/4 inch pieces of wood. So you can see here, it's 4 feet by 4 feet in the other direction. I'm not gonna take time to do that. Something else you'll notice, for those of you that work construction, you'll see that I used subfloor pieces. That's why it's got a groove on this side and a notch on this side, or a notch on this side and a whatever on this side, because they slide together to make subfloor pieces. I should have got just regular 3/4 inch, but they had subfloor available, so that's what I got. Now, as for the walls, all 4 walls are the exact same dimensions as well, because they were going to be completely modular, but they assemble them. I just assemble them one way to make it as easy as possible. They are, let's see how tall that is. That is 86 inches tall. Yep, 86 inches tall. And they are, move this over here. What is that? That's 47 1/4, looks like. We'll try one more just to be sure. This is like GoPro style video, YouTubing, whatever you want to say. Looks like 47. Now, the 4 walls are as follows. I have the left wall, oh, no, I'm looking at this backwards. The left wall with the ventilation system, you can see the vents right there and right there, and the desk cut out in the back. The right wall, if you're looking at the door, with the desk cut out there. And then the back, obviously, with the desk built into it. And then the door itself. Now, a door is, I bought a door when I built this booth, and the door was too big. With it only being 86 inches tall and the ceiling sitting down about 4 inches from the top of the booth itself, the door was actually going to be past the ceiling. A standard door is too big. So as you can see, they're standing right next to that door. See the door? See the level of the ceiling? It's too big. So I bought the door, had to return the door, and I just cut the door out. I'll give you more details about that in a minute. Now, assembling this is easier with another person. So I don't have another person, so I'm just doing this by myself. I'm going to take the first wall, the back wall, the desk, and I'm going to set it in place at the back of the floor itself. Then I'm going to take the right wall and I'm going to set that in place. After I set the back wall in place, I'm going to put a piece of aluminum. Those were just 8-foot sticks of L-shaped aluminum, whatever. And I'm going to insert one of these with the holes towards the top. You see the holes up there. In between, it's hard to hold the camera and do this at the same time. I'm going to insert it in between the wood and that bracket that you see down there at the bottom. You can also see that I wrote door on the front of the sub base, so I always have it oriented the same way, just to keep the assembly as smooth as possible. You can see in the holes on the side that the aluminum goes all the way down. So that's an unknown benefit of the holes when I bought them, that now I can see when the aluminum's in place. And this aluminum is what keeps the walls, the corners together. So that when I slide the wall pieces, together in each corner, I put the aluminum in place and it gives it something to stop against. So that way the corners don't pass each other when I'm sliding them together. You're probably wondering why I have a scraper. This scraper is my handy dandy guide for the back of the wall supports, or the back of the wall track, I should say. This, I just put it in place, and then this gives me something to push up against that'll help the wall slide down into place when I lift it up. None of these panels are light. They're all very heavy. And so you just have to manhandle them into place. That's also why it's easier to have 2 people. It's in place and it's not going to fall down on top of you. I've had that happen. And voila, one piece is in place. I take the scraper out, use it for the next wall, and then I take one of my corner pieces. The thing you'll notice is that I have these corners numbered, and the aluminum pieces that make up the corners are numbered as well. So I know where each one goes in the 4 corners to hold the walls in place, to keep the sound out as much as possible. So I made tight corners. The way I did that is you can see that this space here is smaller than this space here on the other side, just by using 2 fingers. Obviously, I used a measuring tape, okay? With the 2 fingers on this side, the reason why one side is longer than the other side of the board is because this side is the back for this side. So you can see here that this corner is a small corner, like the far side of that one. That's because this wall and that wall slide together. So that wall will be the back of this wall here. So where this wall sits, this other wall is going to come in and it's going to slide into place right there. And that backs up against this board. Again, with the piece of aluminum in place in the corner. So what I need to do is slide this one all the way over here, and then this one will slide into place and stop against this corner so that they come together. I can't do that with one hand. So that they come together to make as tight a corner as possible. Now I've got the second wall in place. I'm using a nightstand as a stepping stool because I don't have a stepping stool. You'll see over here, just as a quick illustration, how this corner matches flush with the edge of the sub base with just enough space for the aluminum corner piece to slide in here. Whereas this corner over here, you see that there's about an inch gap between the edge of the wall and the edge of the sub base. That's so that this next wall piece can slide in place and end right in that corner, so that these are butt to butt with each other, or corner to corner, whatever you want to say. So now that I have the corners assembled, I have all of my hardware here. These are just the same 3-hole corner plates that I have on the sides of the bottom. So I have, I think, 8 of them in total. And I have these numbered as well. That back corner that I'm going to be assembling right now is this one, number 2. So I'm going to take 4 of these nuts and washers, nuts, bolts, and washers. I've got 2 washers on it, a lock nut on one side, and just a bolt that slides all the way through all of them. I think these are 1.5 inches, no, 2 inches, 2-inch bolts. And I've just put one in the top and the bottom on each corner, so I need 4 total to assemble it. Then I take my ratcheting 7/16 wrench and my 7/16 socket wrench or nut runner, and I use them together to tighten these up on the wall. Now this corner piece, I'll show you when I have it assembled, holds everything together. It holds the 2 walls together, and it holds the aluminum corner piece up against the side. So this is the brace for everything. So I got the 3 walls up with 2 bolts in each just to hold them in place until I get the second wall or the 4th wall in place. So you see that I have the bolts facing on the outside, coming through the plate, through the angle aluminum, and then bolted on the exterior like that. You'll see on the inside that you have to put the bolt facing out because the ceiling panel has to come in and sit flush on the top of the these angle irons here, these angle aluminums here. So this aluminum on the outside, the aluminum pieces on the outside is, I think, 1.5 inches. And this aluminum here on the inside is 1 inch aluminum pieces. You can see if you can see it. Yep, so you see it there. So what I did is I took these 3-foot 1-inch angle aluminum pieces, and I put 1 on each of the walls, including the front wall, obviously. And then I bolted them through the wood, through the 1/2-inch foam, and then into the angle aluminum. And this is what supports the ceiling. The ceiling just slides in place and sets down flat on top of these pieces. So it took quite a bit of measuring to make sure that it was level all the way across from the sub base up to the ceiling, so that the ceiling would sit flat on those aluminum pieces. On the outside here, you can see that's why there are these 4 bolts on the outside, because those are what are holding the aluminum piece in place on the inside for the ceiling. While I'm talking about bolts on the outside, you'll also see down here in the bottom that there are 2 on the bottom in the corners. And that is the same for each of the wall pieces, even for the door. You'll see them down here in the bottom. What I did there is on the inside, I took, the foam is glued in place, but I'm not going to pull it off. I took 1.5 inch fender washer, and I put that over the inside of the bolt, on the inside of the wall. The reason I did that is because when you look at the walls themselves, you'll see that it's 3/4 inch wafer board, and then 1/2 inch foam. So 1 inch foam on the floor and on the ceiling, and then 1/2 inch foam on the walls. I glued this in place by using a wood to foam, not epoxy, glue, which was in a silicone tube. Glued that in place, spatulaed it out so it was nice and smooth, applied the foam in place, but didn't want to ever have to deal with re-adhering the foam if the glue ever broke free or strained or anything like that. So the glue holds the foam in place, but the 4 bolts that hold the angle aluminum in place for the ceiling also hold the top of the foam in place. Well, I figured if that works for the top, I might as well do it on the bottom. So on the bottom, in both corners of each wall piece, like I said, I took a bolt, put it through the wood, took it through, oh, you can see it here. Oh, I didn't use 1.5 inches on this side. I guess I just used a 1-inch fender washer. And I bolted I went through the wood, through the foam, and then on the inside, I tightened it down just to where it was snug and started to squish the foam to make sure that the foam was not just secured by glue, but it was also secured by these screws. Obviously, the booths that I modeled this off of with Whisper Room, Vocal Booth to Go, or just Vocal Booth, booth.com, like there are 3 different brands that I went off of. They don't have foam on the interior. They just use 3/4 inch or 1 inch plywood or wafer board for the walls. I wanted to go a little bit more advanced, and I added the foam to it, just to help with some sound deadening, and then obviously the 2 inches of acoustic foam on the inside. So that's how the walls are assembled themselves. A little bit of a tangent on topic about assembling the walls, but I'm doing it as it comes to me. Oh, another thing about this wall. So you'll see on the desk wall, I'm not going to move my stool right now. On this back wall, the desk, and on the left wall, I have a cord hole. Other booths only come with 1. I wanted 2, so I put 1 here and I put 1 on the wall with the desk, so I can go out of either side with the cords that I have. The way I did the cord hole is, here is just some of the acoustic foam that I bought to line the interior. I have 2 pieces that I cut into strips, and I roll around the cords and then stick it through the hole to deaden the sound. So you'll see that I cut nice and clean opening out of the wafer board and out of the foam. And then I put this in place. Well, what is this? This is a 3-inch PVC coupling. Obviously, a 3-inch PVC coupling is about that long, but this is only about 1.5 inches. So I measured the depth of the foam and the depth of the wood, measured that on the 3-inch PVC coupling, and then cut the PVC coupling in half. And that left me with this lovely, pretty little sleeve. 1 coupling did both holes because the coupling was big enough. And then I just set it in place, siliconed it, and then I put 4 screws between the PVC and the wood walls. So the screw is actually screwed in between the PVC and the wall itself to hold it tightly in place. So this is not going anywhere, ever. And then I just put the acoustic foam in place, and then my cord hole is ready to go. You don't need to, but I wanted to. You can see here, the vocal booth is assembled. I got the door on the front, got all the side panels up, and I got the ceiling in place. Now the ceiling, like I said, it just slides in, it just falls into place. So I just lift it over the top and then drop it down so that it rests on those aluminum bars like I showed before. Now what I'm using for light is just 3 LED light bars. I don't have that one on right now, that I got off Amazon. Really inexpensive, really lightweight, because they are Velcroed to the ceiling. And then I just run the cord out the corner, out through the ceiling tile, and then plug it in the back here. Having everything carpeted really helps with utility because everything is Velcroed to the booth, and it makes it really easy to maintain everything. That's also what these 6 additional sound tiles are, is just Velcroed to the booth itself, so it holds it all in place. So those are all the lights, and there's the booth assembled. I'll talk about the desk after I show you the ventilation system, because I need to get the ventilation system mounted to the wall. All right, so here is the supply for the ventilation system, and over here is the return box there. The return box is really simple. It's the exact same box, exact same dimensions. It just has a register on the bottom, a grill, a vent, whatever you want to call it, on the bottom of the box to allow for airflow. So this is where air gets sucked into the booth, and that is where air gets pushed out of the booth. So my fan, what I have here is a 6-inch booster fan. But on the end of the booster fan, I have it's a variable speed booster fan. So it has a high, medium, and low speed, basically. so that I can turn it on, turn it all the way up, and get air circulating through the booth so that it doesn't turn into a hot box, which is the number 1 issue voiceover artists give me when they talk about their closets, their tent booths, their ready-made booths, whatever they use. They talk about how hot it gets in there. So I wanted to make sure that with my booth, I had enough ventilation. Now, more information about the fan. I just got it from home. I got it online from Home Depot, I'm pretty sure. Again, 6-inch variable speed booster fan that I mounted to a register box, to a, it's called a boot in the industry, a insulated, what is this? I think it's a 12x6 box. With a register that I bought and then spray painted black so that it wasn't white and didn't stick out so much. And then I attached it to 8 feet of 6-inch flex and attached it to another start collar. So a start collar, which you see here, is a metal ring that has metal flanges on the inside that you bend over or under whatever it is you're sticking it inside. Normally it's for ductwork when you're running for air conditioning purposes. So I used 3 of them, 1 here, 1 at the end for this flex, and then 1 in the return box over there for my boxes, for my ventilation system. And then just taped the raw metal edge so that it wasn't so sharp. Now, I took these 6-inch start collars and I put it on the bare wood when it was bare wood before, and I scribed a hole using the opening. And then I just jigsawed the hole out, 1 at the top and 1 at the bottom, with the dimensions so that they were equal distant from the top in that corner and from the bottom in that corner, to center. So that way it obviously looks good and professional. Then I cut the holes. I cut the hole with the foam, and now the ventilation box has somewhere to sit. So I put the supply through here and I put the return through here. So this box goes up here and the return goes over here. Now let's talk about the box itself. The box itself, like I mentioned before, is just 3/4 inch PVC, 3/4 inch wafer board. And inside of the box, I have it lined with 2 inches of acoustic foam as well. So the entire inside of this box is lined with 2 inches of foam. And additionally, I have baffles inside the box as well, which helps cut the corners of the airflow to help deaden any sound as it passes through. So here is an inside view of the box, of the return box. So you can see here that I have 1, 2, 3 turns of foam inside the box itself. They're not really 90-degree turns, but they're enough of a turn to be able to break up the airstream and help deaden any of that bass that might be traveling through the air itself. And you can also see the 2 inches of foam that encase the entire interior of the return box itself. That way, the least amount of sound is transferred through the box into the booth, which is obviously what we want, which is the whole reason why we're building a booth. So now on to the dimensions of the ventilation system. I went for the simplest style of ventilation system as I could, so that I could build both of them without making it too difficult on myself. So I made it 38 inches long and 11 inches by 11 inches. So it's 38 inches long by 11 inches square. And the reason why I did that is so that I could cut 1 foot sections, 11-inch sections, out of my 6th piece of wafer board into the 4-inch strips that they were, cut off the 11-inch piece for each of the caps and be done, and not have to make any additional cuts in the final assembly of the boxes. Then I just put the boxes together, put wood glue along the seam, and then stapled the boxes together. So wood glue and staples are both holding the boxes assembled. Then I obviously glued the entire outside and put the carpet on the outside. So you can see that I got the supply on the booth now. The way I secure it to the booth, as you saw when you were looking at the face of the ventilation boxes themselves, is I have these little white strips on it. That's just double-sided Velcro to help keep the box, the ventilation box against the booth itself. The majority of the weight is supported by the start collar or finger saver that mounts, that slides inside the hole on the side of the box. The Velcro helps keep it in place. And then the last thing I do is I also have this little single hold L bracket that I just take a little screw and I screw it through the L bracket into the side of the booth itself. And that makes sure that these boxes never come off when I don't want them to. You'll also notice with the supply that the hole is at the top, and then with the returns, the hole is at the bottom. So this is oriented like this when it's up against the booth itself. There is the ventilation system. I'll show you the variable speed control that I have inside the booth once I have it in place. Now let's talk about the door first, and then we'll talk about the desk. So the door, like I said, the door wouldn't fit, the standard size door wouldn't fit inside the booth because the door was only about an inch shorter than the entire booth itself. So what I had to do is I scrapped the buying a door idea and instead I made a door. So this wall that was supposed to be the door, I decided, well, we'll just make a door out of it. So I took a skill saw, a utility saw, whatever, or a jigsaw, whatever you have, and I drew a door onto the wall that was supposed to hold the door. And then very carefully, and with all the experience I have, I cut a very straight line for the entire door, and I just cut out a piece of the wafer board and used that for the door. So then I had the exact 1/4 inch spacing along the entire door itself so that I knew that it would fit, but then I needed some way to support the door because this 3/4 inch wafer board wouldn't support its own weight and would start to warp over time. So I used the same wood on the inside of the door to trim or to frame the inside of the door as I did for the desk. So I just took 2x2 pieces of wood, painted them black so that it all looks uniform, and then ran a 2x2 along the entire exterior and then in the middle of the door itself. Since I had to come up with a handle, I just took a little piece, a 1x3 piece of wood, cut it off, screwed it in place, and then just put one of these little barn latches on the door itself. And that's what closes the door on the inside. So you'll see there, I just pull it in and then latch it, and then my door's closed. Now on the inside, you can also hear how quiet it is. It's so quiet. Obviously that's the point of the booth. So, oh, there's a spider. I'll have to kill that. Now on the inside of the wall itself, I obviously framed the door. I bought 3 hinges, put the hinges on, and I bought a little cheap handle and I put it on the outside. But on the inside, I needed to frame this wall as well, because if you look at the outside, you can see that the wall itself is only that thick all the way around. And so when you try and lift this panel, the wood's gonna snap. And so I had to find a way to frame it. So what I did on the inside is I trimmed the entire doorway with those 2x2 boards and secured them to each other and to the wall itself, obviously. And then I secured 1x3 pieces of wood along the exterior itself and overlapped the edges of the 2x2s and the 1x3s so that no seam was in the same place, so that that wouldn't be a stress point when you lift the wall itself. So now I can close the door, latch it, and move this entire wall without the wall snapping. because of how thin the edges are. So that's how the door is framed out. For everything, I just used 2-inch, 3-inch, and I think in one case 4-inch deck screws, torque head deck screws or star head deck screws to secure everything. Now onto the desk. The desk is assembled out of the same 2x2s that I painted black and used to secure everything else. The top of the desk is that last little bit of wood that I had left from the 6th piece of wafer board. I measured how big of a desk I wanted. I'll measure that and tell you that here in a second. Okay, I measured the desk to be, let's see, 14 inches by 40 inches. I need both hands. So it was 40 inches by, what did I say? You can go back and read it again, but I'll say 14 inches. 40 inches by 14 inches. So I cut that out of the last piece of 3/4 inch wafer board, and then did all of these measurements and everything else so that the desk was at the perfect height for my office chair and for me. As you can see, the desk folds. I wanted that feature so that way I could use this booth as a standing recording space instead of as a seated recording space. You know, seated when you're doing long form versus standing when you're doing commercials and whatnot. Any other short form narration, where any other short form voiceover where you should be standing. So I made it so that it would collapse. And the way I did that is if I lift the desk here, I stand it up in place and I push these little hinges back into place. So you'll see here on the bottom that I just have a piano hinge for the center of the desk itself. And then on the 2 edges, I have 2 little black hinges as well to support the sides, because after I got the piano hinge in place, I figured that the weight would be too much on the edges over there. So I wanted to keep it straight, and I added those 2 more hinges. You could just get a longer piano hinge, but those are really a bear to install. So I just got 2 little ones on the sides. And then I got these little collapsible hinges for the bottom that I just got them at Home Depot or Lowe's, one of the 2. And they just pop in and out of place. I think it's a similar, that's a piano hinge, but that looks like what would be underneath the piano's top. So, and then I just pop it in place and voila, I have a disc. And there's the disc is in place. And it supports plenty of weight, the way that I have it. Now, you can also see underneath here all the 2x2s that I have in place to frame it. So, because the wall is 1/2-inch foam, as you can see back there where it's blocked out, I needed some way to secure the desk frame to the wall of the booth itself. So I used the 2x2s to sandwich. I screwed them together and sandwiched the foam in the middle. So I didn't cut out the foam. The foam is still there. And I just put them in around it. So I just framed everything out with 2x2s, eyeballed it out to where I knew this hinge would connect in that spot, and that's where I put a 2x2. I knew that the desk needed to be supported in the back, so that's where I put a 2x2. On the top, same thing. I have these little utility shelves. So I built these little utility shelves out of some spare plywood that I had on hand. This is just 1/2-inch plywood with some big old hinges, or big old L brackets. And I set these on each side. So I have one here and then I have one over there. And these are where my monitors sit. I obviously knew that I needed to have supports for these shelves. So I put 2x2s here on each side. And now the last one is this one here in the middle. Well, what the crap could that be for? That supports one of my 2 monitors. So I have here, I think I got that off of Walmart.com, is just a collapsible monitor mount that I use for one of my screens. And then everything else just sits on the desk. and I do everything inside my workspace. I'll show you the finished product once I have everything put back together, and I've put my monitors up and I put my screens up and my keyboard and everything else. You can see right back there the second cord hole that I have my power conditioner coming through. I listened to a podcast about voiceover, and the sound engineer who was the guest said to get a power conditioner and use it to plug all of your cords into, because that rumble that can come through the alternating current from other induction loads, we won't get into the science of all that. Basically, the rumble that comes through the power of other things consuming power can cause a hum inside your softwares and inside your computers, and microphone and things like that. So using a power conditioner gets rid of that hum that can cause your noise floor to be higher than what you would like it to be. Your digital noise floor, not even your physical noise floor. Obviously, everything we're doing here is for our physical noise floor, but that gets rid of the digital hum that you might hear over your speakers, or it helps get rid of that. So I have a power conditioner that I put through that second hole, and I plug everything into that. You can see up here at the top, after I got it assembled, that, like I said, the bolts stick out of, they stick on the outside. I know it doesn't look nice, but it's the only way it'll work so that the ceiling can slide inside and fall down in place. Obviously, everything else I have looks, is going to the inside so that it looks as nice as possible, but that has to be to the outside. So I call it my industrial look. Now, another note while I'm thinking about it, you can see with the light hitting these just perfectly, I have these little shiny spots in the carpet. Those are staples. Now, since I made this booth entirely modular so that I could take it apart, move it, and reassemble it whenever I change location, I wanted to make sure that the carpet never came off. I used carpet glue, obviously, and I used a spatula, and I spread it out nice and even, and I ironed it down, or I pressed it flat so that it stuck on there. So the carpet's, you know, it's good and stuck. It's not going anywhere. But to make sure that that was never an issue, I also added staples onto just about every 8 inches on all of the seams. So on the edges of these walls, it's covered by the corner piece, there are staples. Inside, on the ventilation boxes, like you could see, there were staples. On my desktop here, you can see there are staples about every 8 inches. So that way, the carpet never peels off, and I never have to deal with it getting in the way, wearing out, or that annoying thing that rugs do where the corners peel, or the corners curl over time. So I also stapled everything down into place. I just used a little hammer stapler and some 1/2-inch wood staples. So something I like to do or something that you need to do, they even recommend this on the 3 vocal booth sites that I've referenced before, is that after you assemble your final booth, there will be space in the corners. So where the foam meets, there's little air pockets back there. And you don't want anything getting in and out except for the air that comes through your ventilation system. And so I take little slivers of foam and I stick it into the seams to make sure that it's as airtight as possible. I do that on top as well. The other thing that I do is, you'll see here, any of you voiceovers that have been saving up to build a booth of your own know what those are. Those are sound blankets. So before I invested and built my own actual booth, I used a tent booth like everyone else does. I built it out of PVC, and I bought the 4 sound blankets from that, whatever site is recommended by that wonderful individual who laid the plans for how to make an actual PVC tent booth. Thank him very much. I don't remember his name. Shout out whoever he is. So with these 4 sound blankets, since I have them and they work really well, I fold one up and put it on the top so that it fills that space on top. Not that you can see it. I want to keep it as pretty as possible. And then I drape them 2 more on the outside so that the sound blanket is on the outside and creates an additional layer of sound deadening so that it's as soundproof as possible. It's sound treated, obviously, with all the acoustic foam, but it's not soundproof, and we want to be as soundproof as possible. The other thing I have is over here, I have a whole bunch of foam, those 2 bags there, left over from when I ordered enough to tile the entire interior of my booth. So I have all of that left over for when I need to replace foam, because obviously it gets torn whenever it gets worn or falls off and I just need to put a new piece up. I have plenty of spare foam in this specific color that I can use later. Speaking of foam, this foam here, this egg crate foam that I use on the sides, that's only 1 inch thick compared to the 2-inch foam. I obviously did that 1 inch on the sides here because this is my desk. I didn't want as much encroaching of foam onto the edges on the station that I work at. So I used 1 inch egg crate foam. Lastly, about the foam, I used spray adhesive, just regular old spray adhesive on the back of the foam tiles, and I just stuck it to the wall. I went blue and black and I added plenty of light so that it's a much brighter workspace. That at least is something I like. So the way I put the foam up is I used spray adhesive and I just tiled. I've laid tile multiple times. So if you don't know how to lay tile, watch another YouTube video about how to lay tile. And I started in one corner and I just worked out. Made a level line so that it was nice and level all the way across, and just did it as uniformly as possible. Obviously foam is not hard like tile, so it took some finagling to get it as nice as possible. But that way I was able to have a lovely checkered interior.